Welcome back to my React crash course, lesson number 6, and in today's video I'm going to be going over UseState and then event listeners, and every time we click a video we can see that the views are going to increase, which is done by using the onClick event listener and then by also using hooks. And before we begin, make sure that you like this video, subscribe so that you don't miss upcoming React lessons. Comment down below if you get any questions during the video, but now let's get started. And before I go over use states, I'm going to have to go over event listeners because we're going to add the use state inside of the event listener and it's not going to take too long. So let's go ahead and do that. Now we know there's two ways to add event listeners. One is going to be from your JavaScript file and then the other one's going to be from your HTML file. So let's go ahead and actually open our index.html, or actually I'm going to do that. You don't have to do it. But inside of the body here, let's say we had a button. We know that if we wanted to, what we could do is we could write onClick, and then here we would write the name of the function, and that's how we do it in HTML. But in JavaScript, we would select the element and then we would add the event listener. But in React, we do it the HTML way because it's much shorter and it's a lot better, since what we could do to add the event listener to our video, we would go here and in HTML, we would write onClick like this. But since it's still JavaScript, we have to write onClick with the C being capitalized, and it's going to be the same way with other event listeners. So just like class name here, it's the same way with event listeners and all of the other attributes. So let's say we want to do onChange, we could see that the C is going to be capitalized too in here. I'm going to go back to onClick, and here we can see that we can actually make a callback function. So let's actually alert title and see if that works. So when we click a video, we can see that we get an alert with the title here. And the other way to do is actually just to create a separate function. And usually the way you would name it is this one's going to be on click. So you would write handle and then click. You'd usually write the event here, and then we can console log e.target, and then let's just console log the element. And now we can write the name of the function inside of our onClick attribute here and open the console here, and we click an element, we can see that we're going to get the thumbnail since we clicked the thumbnail. And let's say I click the video title now, we're going to get the video title, and hopefully you get the point now. And so I'm not going to go too much in depth because you should already know them, but onClick and onChange are the main event listeners that you could use. OnChange is for input, so every time you write something, it's going to run the callback function, but this is not going to be an input, so I'm going to change it back to onClick. And let's go over UseState. You have to import it, so go to the very top and write import UseState, and then you can press enter and it's going to finish it for you. But UseState allows us to have a value in a function, which is going to change that value to whatever you want. So let's actually create it, and then it should make a bit more sense. So the first value is going to be the state. So actually, I'm just going to write state here. And then the second value is going to be the function that's going to set the state. So you would write set state, and then that's going to be equal to UseState. And then here we would write the value. Let's actually put this inside of the video list, and then we're going to put it in the video later. So now we're going to have two values. The first one is going to be state. The second one is going to be UseState. In the return function, what we're going to do is we're going to write h1, and then let's set the text to be equal to state. And then in the round brackets where we set our UseState, we could set the value of state here and see what that's going to look like. So let's just write videos, and once we save, we can see that we're going to get an h1 that says videos here. And what we could do is, let's say onClick, so when we click our video list here, we could write onClick. Let's actually make a function here, so const handle click, and then that's going to be equal to an arrow function. And so in here, we're going to set state, so that's a function which is going to change state, whatever we write in here. And so once we click it, we're going to set state to equal to React videos, or you could set that to whatever you want. And now we're actually going to put the handle click inside of our onClick attribute here. And once we click it, we can see that our text is going to change to React videos. And so that's what UseState allows us to do. It basically just allows us to change our elements values by using hooks which is really useful and saves so much time because we don't actually have to select the elements and change the values by ourselves, and it's very helpful. So let's actually change this value to 0, and every time we click our video list we're going to be adding 1 to our UseState. And there's actually a way to make this a lot simpler, so let's remove this whole function here. And what we could do is we're going to write UseState, or not UseState, but setState. And then here we're going to write state plus 1. And then here, every time we click our video list, we can see our element over here changing, and we're going to be adding 1 to our state by using our function setState every time we click our video list. So now that we know what UseState is and what it does, we have to remove the h1. So let's go ahead and remove this function. We also have to remove it from the element. Now let's create our UseState. So since we already have a value that's going to be equal to views, I'm going to just set this to vidViews. And then the function is going to be set vidViews, and that's going to be equal to UseState, and it's going to be equal to our views. Now what's going to happen is every time we click our video, so on click, what's going to happen is we're going to run a callback function, and then in that callback function we're going to set vidViews to equal to vidViews, so our value here, which is actually equal to views, plus 1. And then we have to set the views count here to equal to vidViews. And now it should work. So we can see that every time we click our video, the views over here, it jumps by 1, which means that our UseState works. And if it doesn't for you, then make sure that you check that you haven't written any errors. And we can see that over here, it's going to be adding 1 because I made it a string. So if we go down here, I can change that to 14,000 like this. And now if we click on it, we can see that it's going to increase since now it's a number. But yeah, so this is going to be the very basics of UseState. And if you want me to make another video on it to go more in depth, then let me know down in the comments. But this is where I'm going to end it. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. And if you did, then make sure to leave a like, subscribe, so that you don't miss upcoming React lessons and videos. And comment down below if you want to see any specific React videos, maybe tutorials.